Hey scrappers, if you're looking to figure out what materials you should sell this week or hold this week, now is the time to do it. Our weekly report is going to give you that information, up-to-date market news, pricing. Let's get right into it and we'll talk about it inside. Hey scrappers, Tom here, and today is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. We hope that you're doing well, getting into the second month of 2024. So we'll talk about some of the market news. We'll see what's happened over the last couple of weeks since we spoke. Not a lot of great news, but not a lot of really bad news. Things have been relatively quiet. But one thing that we've actually had a lot of questions and things on were the brass market. So I want to talk about the brass market for a little bit. We'll pull up some of the reported prices in a couple of seconds. But one thing is, if you're looking to learn about brass prices, always follow copper prices, because those copper markets are, what makes up 60 to 80% of the weight in the brass or the bronze that you're dealing with. So the weight of brass, most of it's coming from copper. And when we pull up some of the prices, we're looking at yellow brass at $1.92 right now. Pretty solid. You can see a couple of prices that are higher, 240, 206, 202, 190, 150. Again, time and place and where things are. But you can see all of these are relatively recent, within the last 2 weeks. But brass prices, and if we could bring up bronze prices, they move according to where copper moves. So week over week, copper prices are down 3%. So what's going to happen is that's going to eventually spill into the brass prices. So if you look at bronze, $2, and these are a little off right now. Can you pull up red brass and see if that has a couple more? No, it didn't. So red brass right now is around 240, 245. So when you're looking at red brass versus yellow brass, if you want to have any type of an uptick in markets, that's where you should be looking. So you have a 30-day range, 230, 240. We're looking at red brass and yellow brass along with those copper prices. And one of the greatest things about what we've done at iScrap over the years is we've made dozens of videos that talk about these things. We've talked about prices of yellow brass, red brass, how to sort and separate them. So going to our YouTube channel and just searching some of our videos, we have hundreds, if not a couple thousand videos on there. You'll be able to really learn from those videos, how to sort brass, how to learn about pricing, what goes inside of it. You can report your brass prices that you've received for yellow or red brass or your auto cores. You can report that right through the app as well. So if you have the app with you, report those prices to help you learn what's going on, and you can check these prices 24/7. We have the prices always listed online. People are always posting them for non-ferrous and both ferrous metals. So if you have any questions or you want to report one, download the app for free. You can do it for free on the mobile app, iScrapApp.com, of course on the website through your iPad or a tablet or a laptop or something as well. But those markets have been pretty strong. Yellow brass, if I kind of think back, $1.92, that's kind of the range that it's in right now. I believe my yard's paying $205, $210 right now for yellow brass. If your yard is paying around the $1.90 level, that does give you an opportunity to maybe negotiate prices. If you have 400 or 500 pounds, I generally wouldn't negotiate for less than that, but you could probably get 7 to 10 cents per pound. And those are some of the pieces of advice that we've had in other videos, how to negotiate prices with scrap yards. Just because the scrap yard posts a price, that doesn't mean that you can't get a little more. Hopefully you don't get a little less, but certainly check those things out. Now, we've also had a lot, and I mean a lot of people talking to us about iScrap. So when I see iScrap questions coming up, I default right back to, other things like our YouTube videos. I know, second or third time I'm saying it here. Our YouTube videos are built around your questions, right? A lot of the videos that we create aren't from content or ideas that we have. It's from things that you have. So let us know if there's videos that you want us to put out there, especially ones that scrap yards don't want you to know. We've done videos of that before, both things that a scrap yard might not tell you or things that annoy the scrap yard that help you learn. But a better and more informed customer and consumer makes for better products at the scrap yard because you're producing scrap that's cleaner, scrap that's more plentiful, right? So these are things to look at and think about. So scrap prices on iScrap, I'm looking at gold. even week over week. Gold prices are around $2,050 an ounce right now. Our e-scrap prices are not always heavily reported, but let me tell you a little bit about the market. I've been around e-scrap since the early 1990s when I was a kid visiting my dad's scrapyard. I remember the circuit boards being filled with gold, lined with silver, right? And those days are really long gone. Now we have boards that are laced with copper and laced with aluminum and very small connectors for pieces of gold or precious metals like silver or even platinum. So the e-scrap market has really changed to be more like a non-ferrous market opposed to an e-scrap gold silver content market. Does it help? Of course it helps. The gold prices jumping up electronic scrap prices should go hand in hand for large price swings. But when you're doing electronic scrap, and again, check out our videos online. We have videos explaining low grade boards, hard drives, hard drive boards, motherboards, server boards, power supplies, desktops, laptops, tablets, phones. We have all of these things on here. So at our scrapyard, we are what's called an R2 certified electronics vendor. That means we don't resell our electronics for reuse. We only recycle them. So we have a lot of systems that we go through that have allowed us to learn about these different markets and help get the prices and the information out to you. And we know that a lot of scrapyards do not take electronic scrap, and that stinks, but that's why iScrap's here for you to find yards in the area that do. Even mail them. We have customers that mail material to Rockaway Recycling because their scrap yards won't take it. That's not a problem either. But electronic scrap markets, there's a lot of questions around it. Is it worth holding until we get a lot? Should we sell them to a specialty processor? Should we trust the shipping process if we put it in the mail? How do we know we're going to get paid? So when you're dealing with e-scrap and you can't find someone in your area, that's where you want to use the iScrap app to learn about the markets and maybe learn about other yards that are in the area that you can sell to. So again, electronic scrap, another tough one. Let's jump to copper for a little while. I briefly mentioned that copper prices were down about 3% week over week. I'm not really surprised by this. When copper prices shot up 15, 16 cents, there was no rhyme or reason other than some positive market news, but there wasn't a supply and demand increase. So when we pull up some of these prices right now and you look at them, Bear Bright 30-day average 304, number one tubing 288, number three roofing copper 251, ACRs or aluminum copper coils $1.54. Really strong prices right now. If we could click on Bear Bright just to kind of give an idea of what's going on with the range of prices, you can see as high as 340, as low as 260. And again, time and place, different scrap yards, different amounts of material coming in. That's why you have average prices to learn from. But the copper markets right now, I mentioned this in the weekly report. The copper markets right now are they're trying to figure out where they belong. There's obviously a supply, there's obviously a demand, but things that we've spoken about over the last few years, like electric vehicles, like increasing the grid, having countries starting development such as India, those things have not materialized in a way that has increased the demand of copper. I also mentioned in the report this morning that Jeff Bezos and Bill Gates are part of a company that has discovered a brand new mine in Tanzania. Why is that important? Well, the more mining that's going on and the more copper coming out of the ground, well, that recycled copper market isn't going to have as strong as a price, because if they're adding more and more supply into the market, well, what happens? The rest of the copper starts to get diluted. If you start, and these are all fake numbers, right? If you start 2024 and there's 1,000 pounds of copper available in the world, whether it's being used, being recycled, going to be made into something, but by the end of the year, there's 1,100 pounds available to the world. That means that 10%, that 100 pounds, that came from mining operations that are constantly adding more material into the markets. If you add more material into the markets, you're going to have prices that are not going to be as strong unless you start to have shortages Why would we have shortages? Heavy demand, heavy industrial growth. The electric vehicle push was one that, I think their electric vehicles are fine, right? I don't own one. I don't plan on buying one anytime soon. But as a scrap processor, I love that they need more copper. But what we've seen the last few years is that the push to electric vehicles versus the demand for copper for those, while the electric vehicle sales have increased, they haven't increased to the level that has changed the market. So that's one of those things where maybe some people thought we were going to have a short-term burst, but in reality, we really haven't. We've seen copper prices going relatively flat, if not down, since the beginning of 2023. So the demand for copper, it's there for regular everyday events, but what we don't see is large-scale growth. India specifically is where I'm really hoping that by the end of this decade that we start to see large economic growth. But COVID really screwed up a lot of long-term plans from people because you had interest rates that went drastically down. You had people that weren't working, people that weren't sick, supply routes got screwed up. And that domino effect from 2020 is still continuing to be felt today in 2024. We had interest rates that are higher than they were, kind of pre-pandemic. That's going to hurt growth because global companies that are looking to buy and sell material and grow, now they might have a interest rate on a loan that they have that's double or triple what it was. That's going to hinder some of their growth. They might pass those added costs to consumers. Look at the prices of cars. They ballooned up in 2021 and 2022. 2023 kind of saw them level off. And now you're seeing that there were so many extra cars made that cars are now being negotiated in price, kind of like they used to be in 2019. I bought a new F-150 in 2022, and I kind of ordered it online like I was ordering a sandwich from DoorDash. Well, today you go to the Ford dealer and there's lines of trucks available, whether they're pickup trucks, cars, or Broncos. They're all sitting there because these dealerships have been able to catch up with their demand, and now they have an oversupply. Well, that's going to hurt the demand for metals. That's going to hurt the demand for steel, for copper, for catalytic converter scrap such as platinum, palladium, and rhodium. And we'll talk about catalytic converters for a second. RRCats.com, we're continuing to buy cats every single day, but with new laws going into effect and prices really being the catalyst that drop down the markets, those catalytic converter prices they've gone down in a major way. Let me just show you week over week. Platinum down 3.5%. Palladium down almost 6%, rhodium down over 1%. What are we seeing? We're now starting to see the markets declining. Average catalytic converter prices are in the $65 to $68 range. And with these prices down, we're just not seeing the industry demand for the new catalytic converters going up. We recently bought over 150 catalytic converters from one of our customers who normally we would buy 15 to 20 from. Why? They were saving them for the last 6 to 8 months, hoping that the markets were going to increase. Well, here we are. Markets haven't done anything. I know dozens of auto recyclers, dozens of scrap yards that have boxes of catalytic converters sitting in their warehouses. They're hoping to have a resurgence, even having the market double, and they're looking to make a score. But what's happening is because these prices are staying low, that just shows that the industry demand is not high. And that is making it so the prices on cats are going to be low for the considerable future, unfortunately. I don't care if you like it or you don't like it. I don't like it, right? It's hurt my business, but that's what the industry demand is dictating right now. So that's kind of where we are. We did have some people comment, Virginia, we posted a video on CBM last week, right? Mm-hmm. So we had a CBM video go out there. A lot of people commented. People were curious about the threshold for contaminants versus actual material for it to be classified as CBM. So I think people were asking kind of like what the percentages are to actually be, considered CBM. So me personally, I think that a CBM, copper bearing material, that has to have a copper bearing weight of 3 to 7%, right? So an electric motor is between 12 and 17%. CBM to me is 3 to 7%, probably more in that 3 to 5% range. And an example of that would be, the end of a plug. You pull that plug out from the wall and you have those adapters on it that are made of brass. Those are copper bearing, right? That end would be considered CBM. Now, if you pulled the two prongs off, right, and you pulled pieces of brass off of the end of it, would I then buy it? No. And I'll just show you real quick. So see how this shows. Here's a cord, right? And you got these three ends on it that are brass. Now, if I cut this cord and all I had left was this piece, and you brought this to my scrapyard, I would buy this piece as a CBM. If you now cut these prongs off and just brought me this piece of plastic that has a very small amount of copper in it, you might as well throw it away because it's going to make it very hard for me to recycle this. So as you clean material, if there's a little bit of metal left in it, it's kind of like a chicken wing. Get that little shred of meat kind of hidden inside, you're probably not going to be able to get it. There's no value left in that bone to pick off, right? Same thing goes for scrap. If there's very, very little metal, 1 or 2%, of the weight being metal, it's going to be hard for me to sell this. And more importantly, what happens to scrap yards is when you mix extremely low grade material, you could get rejects on that, and then the scrapyard might not even buy it. I have a few friends that have no CBM category. They don't buy super low grade material because they just had no success. We buy it and sell it for pretty much what we buy it for. Maybe we make a couple cents a pound, but it's not a money maker for us. It's just a way for customers to continue to move their scrap. So as you deal with more copper bearing material and you're trying to figure out, the threshold, what do scrap yards think about, you can reference that video and ask questions off that so I can continue to answer those. And a lot of the times you ask questions of us, and if I don't have a quick answer, I'll do market research and I'll call a bunch of my friends that have yards and just learn what they do, because if they're helping their customers make more money, then I want to share that information with you so you can make more money with your scrap. It's not hard, but it is time consuming to learn these things. So while you're sitting on a Saturday night trying to figure out how to make more money, checking out some of our YouTube videos will allow you to learn about those markets, allow you to learn what's going on with the prices. Other markets to talk about: steel prices and oil prices. I'll pair it together because they work kind of like peanut butter and jelly. Oil prices have been relatively steady, right? Which is nice. It's cheaper to fill your gas tank. I filled mine this morning. I think it was $2.77 a gallon I paid. That was awesome. The trucking costs are now down. That's another positive sign. But we have seen 2 to 3 weeks in a row of a declining steel market. We've now seen prices drop $20 to $25, sometimes $30 a ton over that period of time. And again, it goes back to my original speaking points about copper. Where is the demand? Continents, countries, Australia and parts of South America are continuing to produce all types of steel ore, right? That's awesome. But what does it do? It goes back to what we just talked about. If there starts with 1,000 tons of steel in the world on day one, and at the end of the year, there's 1,100 tons of steel, that means more was added in. It dilutes the product that is already there. If the industry or worldwide demand is not high, you're not going to get high prices. It's really very simple. That was why when gas prices shot down to such low levels, oil prices shot down to such low levels in the height of COVID, that was because they didn't have anywhere to move it. They're pumping it out of the ground, filling up containers and ships and tankers, and no one was consuming any oil or gas. That's why the prices went so low. That's when they filled up the strategic petroleum reserves. Well, the steel reserves right now, steel mills are saying, no, we have enough product at our mill and committed to our mill where we don't need any more. Or we'll take it from you, but the price is $20 a ton less. And what's going to happen? Your scrapyard's going to get that piece of information and immediately change their prices. So what I do when I learn about a market shift that's 5 to 7% of the overall price, which $30 a ton is right now. If we can pull up steel prices, I'll show you where some of the averages are. But we have steel prices that are averaging, light iron, $155. We'll pull up this price list right now. Automobiles, $220 a ton, bushling, $260, car with tires, $165, light iron, $157. PNS 257, right? Rotors 257, unprepared HMS 212, right? So when you see some of these prices and you see them, where's the market movement? Today, you're seeing markets at 192, 160, 175, 7 cents, 9 cents, 120. I fully expect in 30 days to see that 156 in the 145 range, because there are still parts of the country that still have open orders, still have different supply and demands. Here, shred 162, but look how it's increased 11% in the last 30 days. I expect that to reverse itself over the next 30 days. That's why I've continued to say, don't hold on to steel, in and out. Now, I mentioned steel, and I'll talk about stainless for a second. I enjoyed not talking about the nickel prices for the last month or two. But unfortunately, first thing this morning, I'm walking the dog at 4:30, and what do I see? Nickel prices sink down to 52-week lows. They've now dropped to 15,800 a ton. We're seeing stainless steel prices dropping down. If you want to hold on to something, stainless steel would be an excellent item for you to hold on to. With the national average creeping around 34 cents for 304 stainless right now, stainless is heavy, stainless is dense. You can store 400 or 500 pounds of stainless inside of 55-gallon drums. Here, 304 stainless, 31 cents a pound, 14% down in the last 30 days. So these prices are not going to improve, even though there are more technologies that are incorporating nickel into their battery technology. It's still not as good as lithium. So we're not going to see the stainless markets having any type of large resurgence unless Elon Musk starts selling those cyber trucks at like 30 grand a pop with all those stainless panels on it. I think I looked recently, they're like 60 to 100,000 a pop. You're not going to see an increase for stainless because that's where all the lines are on all the panels on those cyber trucks are made of stainless. The demand isn't there for stainless or nickel prices right now. They're just not. So unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with these markets and see where they go from here. But hopefully this gives you a good idea of where the nickel prices are, the stainless prices are. Last but not least, aluminum prices week over week down almost 3%. We can pull up some sheet aluminum prices just to give you an idea. But again, we're not seeing a lot of good coming from a lot of markets right now. Why? We're not seeing high industry demand. Here we can see sheet aluminum around 45 cents a pound. I do expect those numbers to be going down into the 42 to 40 cent range. You can see some prices here, 50, 43, 47, 38, 48 cents per pound, giving us our 30-day average. But I do not see large increases coming on any metals for the foreseeable future. The worldwide growth is not there. The interest rates are still up. We're still in the middle of a presidential election in the United States. And believe it or not, that is a big market mover for the world. What's going to happen with the different politicians? Who's going to start running things? Are they going to be continuing to run them? How are their policy changes going to affect commodities? All things that we look for. So a little bit of a longer weekly report this week, but it gives you a really good picture of what's going on with the markets. Questions, comments, ideas, videos you want to see, please continue to download them. Comment on our videos below. We read these comments. We make videos off these comments. So just let us know and we'll be able to get that information out to you. Scrappers, my name is Tom. Today is February 7th, 2024. Until next week, I'll scrap you later.
Thanks for watching our video. For $2.99 a month, by becoming a member, you can get access to early videos, member-only videos, merchandise discounts from our store, and priority comments that we answer before answering any other scrappers. Click the link below to learn more. Until next time, scrap you later.